Now that we've removed the material from underneath the chin and this extra material that was left from the base or left on the base, we need to focus on removing the excess material that was left between the ears. We're going to use one of the existing 3/16 tool paths, and we're just going to make a few changes so that the tool path can focus on just this area right here. If I go to the project page, the below images and instructions are to be used as reference while programming the front and backside secondary roughing tool paths using a 3/16 flat end mill. The next few operations will be used to remove the excess material between the ears of the knight. So we're going to create these two tool paths. And what's going to happen is we're going to copy one of the previous tool paths that uses a 3/16 flat end mill. And we're going to make a few changes and make it work for this operation. Reference the images below to determine where the excess material is left from the previous tool paths. Using the spline tool, draw in a boundary around the areas where the previous tool path couldn't reach, or previous tool couldn't reach. The Z location is located at the center of the part. This boundary will be used to control the movement of the 3/16 flat end mill. This containment boundary will be used by both the roughing tool paths, or will be used by both roughing tool paths as shown in the image above. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this area, and in this image you can see a spline that's drawn, and we're going to use this spline to control the movement of the tool. So what we'll need to do is draw in another boundary. We're going to copy one of the existing tool paths and make some changes so that it works for the cleaning up of this region. I'll go back to Mastercam. I'm going to change the construction plane, or not construction, I'm going to change the construction plane and the tool plane to the front face. So I'll select front face in the planes manager. I'll hit the red equal sign, and then I'll look at it from a top view. I'm going to draw in a spline that captures this area. I'll go to the level manager. I'll create a new level. I'll call it boundary ears, or something that makes sense. I'll go to the wireframe tab, and I'm going to draw in another spline. My C-plane is still set to 2D, and with it set to 2D, regardless of whether or not I lock onto something, it should still be placed on a 2D plane. So what I'll do is I'll draw in this boundary. And I'm still avoiding locking onto any of the geometry that's on my screen. So I drew in this boundary. I'll select OK. I'll go back to the toolpath manager. I'm going to minimize the existing toolpaths and stock models, and I'm going to select one of the 3/16 flat end mill toolpaths. I'm selecting the left. Right click on it. Copy. It's important that you are careful not to copy all of the toolpaths. Place the insertion arrow at the very bottom and then right click on it and paste. Expand the new toolpath. Go into the parameters, and I'm going to start with the model geometry. We're using the same model geometry, so we do not need to make any changes here. Toolpath control. We need to change the boundaries, so I'll deselect. I'll start by removing these selected boundaries from this toolpath, and then I'll select this icon, containment boundaries. The wireframe chaining dialog box appears. I've got mine set to C-plane. Selection method is chain. I'll select this boundary. It says the selected entity is not parallel to the C-plane. Plane mask is enabled. So I'll select OK. My C-plane is set to front face. It should have let me select it, so I'll go back to my planes. Front plane. Oh, it might have taken on some three-dimensional. Nope, it's good. Front face equals top. That's correct. I'll select the chain. So I must have changed my C-plane at some point. You want your C-plane set to top face, or I'm sorry, front face. You want your C-plane set to front face at this time. It's working. From here I'll go to the tool, and I don't need to make any changes here except for the comment. I'll go to the tool page on the project page, and the note or the comment is changed to remachine ears front. So remachine all caps ears front. I'll need to change the planes that this toolpath is referencing. So for the tool plane, I'll select this icon. I'm going to change it to front face, and then I'll carry it over to the construction plane. And that might have been the issue, because this toolpath, it was referencing the left side face when I selected the the toolpath control boundary. That was not parallel to that tool plane. That might have been the issue. So I probably should have changed the planes first and then went up here and started making changes. So from here, we might have to come in and change the steep shallow. I'm going to leave it the minimum depth set to 1.5, and I'm going to set the maximum depth to minus 0.01. If I look at the project page and I go down to the steep shallow section, they're using 0.02 or minus 0.02. So just to be consistent with the project page, I'm going to change this to minus 0.02, 20 thousandths. Linking parameters, I don't think I need to make any changes. So from here, I'll select OK. I'll go back to the toolpath manager, and you can see that Mastercam is regenerating the toolpath with the changes that we've made. If I run it in backplot, so I just have this toolpath selected, and I run it in backplot, and it's machining well above the area where the material is left between the ears, and we really don't need that to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and change my steep shallow so that it's the minimum is slightly above where the ears are relative to the Z0 of this tool plane. I don't need it to focus on this area, I just need it to focus right here. So a way that we can control that is go into the parameters, go to steep shallow, and we could pick select something off of the screen. So if I select this icon and then pick something that represents the top of the ears right about here, and then I'm going to add 100 thousandths just to give it a little extra material or a little extra room to move. So plus 0.01 or plus 0.1 I should say, and then I'll make that a nice clean number. So let's say 0.25. I'll select OK. It'll regenerate. And 100 thousandths would be right about here, so I don't think this will be an issue. And now if I run it in backplot, let's see what we get. So you can see that it's no longer worrying or focusing on the material up here. We're going to come in with a 1/4 inch ball mill, and we're going to do a semi-finished toolpath. We're going to intentionally leave 5/1000ths on the walls and the floors, and the 1/4" ball mill will remove the majority of this material. It will get in here and remove some material. And if I look at it from a front view, you can see that the toolpath goes slightly below the center line of the part, the center line of the part being Z0. So that looks good. We'll need to do the same thing, or we'll need to do something similar for the back side. If I go back to the project page, go to the bottom of the project page, the images above are for the secondary rough machining of the front side of the knife. The T-plane that is referenced for the above toolpath or paths is front face T-plane. To do the secondary rough machine for the back side of the knife, copy the proven remachine ears front toolpath and paste it after the original toolpath. Change the description in the comment field of the tool page and change the T-plane as shown in the images below. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the toolpath that we just created. We're going to make several changes so that it works for the back side between the ears. I'll go back in the Mastercam. I'll exit backplot. With just this toolpath selected, right click, copy. Next to the insertion arrow, make sure that the insertion arrow is at the very end. Right click and paste. I'll need to make some changes. According to the project page, on the tool page, we're going to change the description to remachine ears back. And then for the planes, we're going to change the tool plane to back face and the construction plane to back face, like you see here in this screen capture. I'll go into the parameters for the new toolpath. I'll go to the tool page, remachine ears back, and then I'll go down to the planes. I'm going to leave the working coordinate system set to left face. This will establish A0, and then I'm going to change the tool planes to the front, and this will cause, or this will tell Mastercam, or which will tell the NC file to rotate 90 degrees, and then I'll tell it to rotate 180 degrees. So from here, I'll set the tool plane to back face, and then I'll carry it over to the construction plane. I'll select OK. Needs to regenerate this toolpath. With just this toolpath selected, I'll run backplot. So it's machining an area that doesn't necessarily need to be remachined at this time. So what we can do is we can go back into the steep shallow settings, and we can change the minimum and maximum. So that's what I'll do. I'll come back in, and for steep shallow, I'm going to set the minimum to 0.1 and then set my maximum. I'll leave the maximum set to -0.02. We'll need to regenerate the selected toolpath. I'll run it in backplot again. And you can see it's now starting to cut above, or I should say closer to the center line. And you can see that the ears lean forward, so they're not vertical and they're not on center line. And what I'll need to do, I suspect we're going to have to go beyond the center line of the part. Let's run these toolpaths and verify and see what type of materials left over after these two toolpaths. So I'm going to go to verify. Before you go to verify, save your work with just these two toolpaths selected. And before I go to verify, I'll need to update my stock model. So I'll go to simulator options. For the stock model that represents our material inside of verify, select the remachine 3/16 flat end mill stock model. I'll select OK. And now with these two toolpaths selected, I'll run verify. Once you're inside of verify, make sure that stop condition collision is still turned on. If Mastercam ever crashes, there's a good chance that stop condition collision will be turned off when you restart the software. So I like to check this every time. And now with those two toolpaths selected, I'll run verify. And we can inspect the model. We could probably send the back toolpath a little bit deeper to remove a little bit more of this material. If I exit verify and then go back into the parameters, if I change this to -0.05, we should get one more depth of cut. And once again, with both of these toolpaths selected, I'll run verify. Inside of verify, I'll hit play. And there seems to be a little bit of unnecessary machining or cutting of air. And I think we're good. We're going to come back in with a 3/16 flat end mill. I'm sorry, we're going to come in with a 3/16 ball mill. And it's going to do the finish pass between the ears. And if we see any undercutting at that time, we might have to come back in and adjust the material that's being left on the walls and on the floors from this toolpath. But we'll have to make that we'll have to determine that when we run the finishing toolpaths inside of verify. So from here, I'll exit verify. And I used a view sheet that turned off that level. So if I go back to my levels, boundary between the ears, go back to the toolpath manager, I'm going to turn off the stock model that's currently visible. And then I'm going to create another stock model that shows us what these two toolpaths have done. So with the insertion arrow at the very end of the toolpath group, I'll go to the toolpath tab, stock model. We'll call this one remachine between ears. For the initial stock shape, I'm going to use the previous stock model, so remachine 3/16 flat end mill. And then for the source operations, select the two toolpaths that we just created. It's going to process the stock model. Once the stock model has been created, you can inspect it, and you can see what these two toolpaths have done. That appears to be good. So from here, I'm going to make this boundary invisible. So I'll go to the level manager and I'll make the boundary ears invisible. inspecting the stock model. Everything appears to be good. And we're now ready to do the semi-finished toolpath with the 1/4" ball and mill. And then we'll program a finished toolpath with a 3/16 ball and mill. And then we'll actually program a finishing toolpath between the ears with the same 3/16 ball and mill.